Okay, so I want to talk about why the attacks on Asians is in the U.S. is not my problem, and why I don't take accountability for it. Now, the reason I don't take accountability for it is if we look at the data, according to this data from 2020, attacks on Asians increased to about 122, right? So I'm going to be very generous to make a point because I can't find exact data from on based on caste, right? Based on color coding. So I'm going to be very generous. I'm going to make a hypothetical and say that half of these attacks were from black caste people, from ADOS, which I do not believe. Okay, but let's say that basically half were committed by black caste people. That's around 60, correct? So there are about 46 million black caste people in the US. 0.0001% of 46 million is 46. So that's a little bit off from 60, but you get the point. It's off about by 14. The number is going to be about the same. So I'm not accountable for these attacks against Asians because of what 0.0001% of us do. Like, that doesn't make sense on any level. There's almost this reverse thing that is going on right now. You know, when there's an attack or a hate crime or a mass shooting by a white caste person, this has reduced, but a lot of the popular narrative was that it was a lone wolf. We have nothing to do with that. It was a lone wolf. It's like the opposite. The data shows that this so-called black on Asian narrative is basically lone wolf attacks, since it's 0.001% of black caste people. So while on the flip side, a lot of these targeted attacks, these caste attacks, were due to institutional, systematic casteism, to organized, coordinated tribalism. Okay? Look at the whole Kung Flu narrative. That came from the top. I mean, literally, from the president. And then there was a coordinated effort with talking heads and politicians to spread this Kung Flu narrative to deflect from the poor handling of the pandemic and to scapegoat Asians and to already perpetuate the xenophobia and little political um, faction stuff that was going on. So the opposite of a lone wolf. And then a lot of these attacks are fueled by like KKK groups, Nazi groups, basically hate organizations, hate groups. Okay, the Charleston church shooter literally left a manifesto, and he literally linked websites where he said he got the information that there was some type of race war and black cast people were out to get white people, and nothing came of that. And but it showed that there's literal organizations that are perpetuating these attacks. There's hate um, Reddit subreddits on Reddit. There's sites like 4chan. There's all these cells that perpetuate these crimes. There's the Proud Boys, which there was the Charlottesville attack. It's the opposite. There's actual organization all the way to the top, but there's this narrative of the evil, dangerous black person that is being pushed, which has lots of utility. It justifies police brutality. See, they are dangerous monsters. We don't have to feel bad that they're being murdered. They're born criminals, right? It justifies the bias and the discrimination. See, I don't feel so bad about discriminating against them. Look at how they are. Um, and then there's caste tactics within that. It justifies the caste system. See, no wonder they're at the bottom. And then we make it the perfect scapegoat. See, they're the bad guy. When that literally is not the case. Okay? And then there's different parts to this. One, it's like, why are we all accountable for what some tiny portions of us do? Why are every single black cast person accountable for what they're doing? But it's not the opposite. The Virginia Tech shooter, East Asian genes. Black cast people as a collective, we didn't demonize every single East Asian or make you guys all accountable for that. There's been attacks on, not attacks, but there's been friction with South Asian communities who are many and Muslim communities. When Muslims were committing strings of terrorist attacks, black cast people as a collective, yes, some did, but as a collective, we didn't hold you all accountable for that. We didn't demonize all of you. We don't act scared of you. Why is that? When that Asian cop killed Akai Gurley, did we demonize every single East Asian? We bring it up to as proof of a double standard and why there's friction, but we didn't say we don't act scared of every single East Asian. We don't use that to justify every Asian. We don't demonize every single East Asian. The San Bernardino shooter, they were South Asian. You guys aren't demonized as a whole. Even white cast people, yes, we'll say when a white cast person commits another mass shooting, Twitter will light up white men, but it doesn't stick in the same way. And they have a whole entire propaganda network via the news corporations that scrub and their image that protect the white cast brand. But anytime there's an attack, there's some footage, we're all accountable. It's um it's it freezes our desire for civil rights. It freezes our desire for human rights, for equity, where every single one of us is to blame. One, there's that double standard. And then why is the majority of these attacks are not by black cast people? So why are 90% of this footage, these mugshots, black cast people? White cast people are doing these attacks. Mestizo Latinos are doing these attacks. Other populations are doing attacks, but 90% of the time, it's a black cast person, which is just propaganda for all the reasons I listed before. Why is it 90% of the time that's the footage that's being shown? The only reason why these other attacks by other populations is being exposed is because of social media. which is just an extension of the propaganda that's already been. Are you guys aware that white cast people commit 50% of all crime? And I mean all crime. Burglaries, muggings, rapes. Okay? 50% of it. So why aren't 50% of the mugshots, this is talking about general crime, white cast people? 90% of the time, they're showing some type of violent attack or showing a mugshot or showing footage. 90% of the time, it's a black cast person. When it 50% of the time, there should be a white cast person. Yes, you'll see a white cast mugshot when it's like a weird or quirky crime, Florida man type of crime, or when it's an extremely gruesome or extreme crime, or when it's like a celebrity. But 85-90% of the time, it's a black ass person, or it's like a brown mestizo, a brown Latino. When 50% of the time, it should be a white ass person. When 30% of the time, 20% of the time, it should be a Latino. But 90% of the time, it's a black ass person because it's propaganda meant to justify police brutality, meant to justify pumping black ass people into the prison industry, to maintain us as the scapegoats while everyone commits all sorts of shady crime. Right? This is just an extension of that. 90% of the time they're showing these anti-Asian attacks, it's a black cast person. Okay, and then the system's so hungry for these attacks. 122 attacks in 2020, and then it's 0.0001%, 0.0002%, multiple zeros. But we're all accountable for that. I don't think so. I don't take any accountability. I don't take any responsibility. I will say that there could have been something. There'd be more because it is happening. I didn't say that. So I'm surprised that there's not some celebrities speaking out about this. That there's not some like political heads, um, Al Sharpton types, um, that there's not more discussion about black on Asian crime and black on anti-Asian attacks from black ass people. I could see like a statement or a discussion, but that's about it. This total responsibility, this justification of the evil, scary black person narrative, I don't think so. Zero accountability. Okay? You guys are falling so much for this propaganda and this conquer and divide strategy. I'm here wondering why cops are not being posted, are doing foot patrols, like in San Francisco. Why aren't cops doing foot patrols around the block, like walk around these blocks, walk around the city, while also having some cops posted on like heavy pedestrian traffic areas, posted on the corners? Prevention would be the best thing for this right now. But cops, you guys don't notice that cops always come after the fact. Does anyone know where the cops hang out or like what they're doing? I know they patrol the suburbs, the richer suburbs, protect them, police us, but we're missing the point. Okay? So I do have empathy. I do have sympathy for you guys. But I am frustrated that you guys are so falling for it, falling for this propaganda, that you guys are so easily spoon fed. I see why. the education industry is about. You guys are fixated on a so-called authority figures, and then you just accept whatever is spoon-fed to you. I'm also suspicious or crack the code on this whole high IQ thing because you guys aren't meeting that stereotype. Um, what I figure that IQ is just one way to be smart. It's you guys are really good at semantic memory. You're really good at memorizing technical information, facts, details, and but you're not good at connecting that information, at connecting the dots to see the bigger picture. You're not that good at synthesizing that information into a big picture because this is rather obvious. But you don't even have the curiosity to check the statistics, or there's some type of inconsistency. So you go and check that, explore that. You guys don't, um, and that's I tie that off of the education system. But I see that IQ is just one way to be smart because you guys are not connecting the dots on this. I'm not bashing. It's just one way to be smart. Okay. Like you guys without these established equations and methods like that were developed over hundreds of years and thousands of years, these equations and these methods um are like glasses to people with high IQ. Like you guys put these equations on, these methods on, these formulas on, and you're able to do all these amazing things, and then pair it with your excellent somatic memory, where you're like a human encyclopedia. You can do these amazing, but once you take those equations off, those formulas off, you guys are pretty like basic. And that's not an insult. We're all basic. That's what I'm saying. I thought you guys were special, but you're not. You have a specialized intelligence, but that's just it. So, yeah, that's why I don't take accountability. I don't take responsibility. This whole race thing is ridiculous. This just reinforces that race is an appearance based caste system. And I hope people work that we can recognize the caste system and dismantle it. And I'm going to go live my life, mind my business. And if I act relatively civil, that's all I have to do.